My dear students of class 8A and B, today I am going to introduce you a new lesson. The name of the lesson is The American Civil War. Lesson number 5, The American Civil War. Lesson number 5. Topic: the American Civil War. Lesson 5, topic: the American Civil War. Lesson 5, the American Civil War. Now, what is American Civil War? And what is the importance of the year 1781? 1781. Why is this year important? In the year 1781, my dear students, the American, at the time when they all gained advantage of the situation, and ultimately they all decided to organize themselves. How the United States of America became an independent democratic country in the world. In which year? In the year 1781. That's why 1781 is a very important year in the history of America and in the history of the world. Because for the first time, the people of America, they established their country as an independent one and democratic one. In which year? In the year 1781. The United States of America became an independent and democratic country in the year 1781. That's why 1781 is a very important year in the history of America, my dear students. Now, why is 1781 important in the history of America? Because on this very year, America, in the year 1781, America became an independent democratic country in the world. That's why 1781 is a very important year, not only in the history of America, but also in the history of the world. And the people of the whole world came to know that a group of people could achieve success, could achieve independence by discarding the rule of autocratic kings and rulers if they follow the pathway of the Americans. That's why the year 1781 is a very important year in the history of not only America but in the history of the whole world. And next one, under whose able guidance America became an independent country, under whose leadership? Under the leadership of George Washington. George Washington. George Washington gave a bold leadership against which country? By defeating which country America became an independent country? By defeating England. By defeating England, America, under the leadership of George Washington, became an independent country and established democratic form of government in the year 1781. Under whose leadership? Under George Washington. And who was the first president of America? George Washington was the first president of America, George Washington. Washington. George Washington became the first president of America. Why? Because the people of America accepted him to be their popular and great leader who gave bold leadership in the American War of Independence against England and ultimately was able to defeat British Army and established independence for their country. That's why the people of America unanimously accepted him to be their first president, and ultimately he became the first president of America. And next one, territorial expansion. What is territorial expansion? Territorial expansion. What is this, my dear students? Territorial expansion. What is this? Territorial expansion? You know, in my previous lesson, I taught you, when I taught you about the rule of Britain in England, in America, I taught you, that time I taught you one point, I just reminding you that the same point, already you have come to know. What is it? British King George III wanted to establish trading relationship with Native Americans with the Native Americans. The portion where there was no British control, they wanted to establish trading relationship with the Native Americans. And most of the Native Americans were tribal people, but they had their business. What type of business? Plantation. They cultivated crops by providing hard labor and earned money from their agricultural lands. Most of the lands were fertile. That's why English King George III decided to establish trading relations with the Native Americans. But the Americans, they protested it. They protested against that system, and hence the British King George III could not proceed. And now, on being an independent country, George Washington decided to extend their territories towards southern parts or western parts of America, where, you know, the Native Americans, the native tribal people of America lived. But since they belonged to America, they were native people, but still they were Americans. That's why George Washington did not want to, harm their sentiments. Then what did he do? George Washington purchased their lands by offering a good amount of price of their lands. The valuation of the land, whatever he had done, attracted the Native Americans, and so they sold their lands to the American government, and then America included the lands of the native tribal people to be the lands of the United States of America. And then by that way, George Washington extended the area of America, means the United States of America. And this system introduced by George Washington came to be known as territorial expansion. Is it clear? Territorial expansion. Now, the causes of the Civil War. The American Civil War, the causes of the Civil War. The causes of the Civil War. The American Civil War. Now, what are the causes? The American Civil War. What were the causes? The first cause is divergent paths of economic development. Divergent paths of economic development. There are certain causes behind it. The first and foremost cause was diverging paths of the economic development. What is diverging paths of the economic developments? You know, there were two parts of America, southern part and northern part. Southern part actually developed in the field of developed their state in the field of agricultural industrial growth. In the south, in the northern portion, in northern America, northern states developed manufacturing units. They developed, shipping centers, and they also they also set up a good network of railways with new cities, new towns. That's why they were well established since they developed their states in industry, they developed their states in trade. That's why there was a huge development in Northern America. On the contrary, the Southern America was totally dependent on plantation. They had their own plantation industries, especially cotton, sugarcane, and tobacco. That's why almost all the raw cottons were shifted to Britain, because Britain from the very beginning had a keen interest to have trading relationship with South America and western part of America. So South American native people decided to supply their raw cotton, raw materials for Britain. Why? Because Britain was the first country in the world witnessed the industrial revolution. There was huge resource. There were huge resources of England, but the raw materials, whatever they required, they realized it that the raw materials of South America could fulfill their expectation. That's why the southern states were predominantly rural by nature and practiced agriculture. That's why they exchanged their industrial goods for England by supplying their raw materials. They decided to exchange their industrial goods for raw materials. Why and for whom? For which country? For England. The Industrial Revolution had increased Britain's consumption of raw materials, and Britain offered huge amount of money for the southern states, and hence southern states decided to supply their raw materials for England. And from the very beginning, Britain and Northern America and their relationship was strained. That's why the Northern America, the parts of Northern America and some western part of America under the presidency of George Washington was not satisfied with the decision of Southern America. What decision? The decision of supplying raw materials for England, because England was their enemy. By defeating England, America became an independent country, my dear students. That's why this is the reason to have established a trading relationship with England was the most important and root cause of political strain and and disintegration, political strain and the will, the friendship, whatever the Americans, especially Northern Americans, wanted to establish with South America. Southern America was disrupted due to the relationship with England and South America. That's why, my dear students, both of the two Americans, the Northern Americans and Southern Americans, their relationship was strained, and hence the American Civil War was alarmed between the two states of America, Northern America and Southern America. Next day, remaining part of the lesson, my dear students. Thank you.